Today's video is sponsored by ExpressVPN, but more about them later.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Saturday Surface Interval in association with Mpora. In today's video we're going to talk about 5 of the worst places to go scuba diving. The Earth is simply covered in water and we can go scuba diving all over the place, but should you go diving everywhere? I mean, there are plenty of amazing dive sites all over the planet to suit divers who like colourful reefs and wildlife, to complex shipwrecks, bountiful rivers, all sorts of things. But let's look at the other side of that coin. What are the worst places to dive? If you're fully qualified and fancy a dive at an inland lake or a dive site that's certainly popular with dive centres for training students, then I'd avoid the weekends and a couple of days after the weekend as well. This isn't a slight against new divers or anything, but before they get their buoyancy down, they often get too close to the bottom and just stir things up. They also tend to dive in quite large groups because that's just how we teach, and when they get too grouped up, they tend to tread water, and with so many people just going in all day, the visibility is just going to get stirred up and you're not going to see anything. Depending on the bottom composition, any water movement and the weather, it can take days for all of that to just settle back down, and at the height of the season, when the sun is out and the water is nice and warm, then it might not settle down at all until after the season is over. You're not going to see anything. The best times to visit a training site is usually Wednesday, Thursday in the week. Fridays are a bit of a wild card. Some dive centres, if they can get their students to take the day off, they'll try and go in on Fridays to try and beat the rush, or midweek as well to avoid the crunch. So try to only go out of season if you really want to. Never ever at the weekends, in the summer especially, unless you really have to go to that one particular dive site. Dive sites like the Blue Hole in Dahab are routinely on dangerous dive site lists, not because of sea monsters or dangerous currents or anything, but because they have a specific temptation somewhere. The Blue Hole has a swim-through section that seems very accessible, only the swim-through actually gets deeper and deeper, so that fun, cheeky little swim-through literally becomes a death trap that has caught out too many divers. Scuba diving is all about exploration, going places that other people haven't been or physically can't go to. So most of us are naturally inclined to push boundaries and look around corners and go places that most people would look at them and go, nah, maybe not. But you need to be able to tell yourself, no. It looks out of my abilities, and maybe you can use that as an inspiration to take part in further education courses so that later on you do have the skills and the equipment to do that swim through. But with your entry-level cert card, stick to your limits. If a dive site has a name, then chances are it's going to be interesting. Most of the best places to dive have already been discovered, unfortunately, especially in recreational depths, because people have been scuba diving for decades now. If it's a particular shipwreck, then that will be the name. But if there's a particularly pretty reef or something, then a scuba diver from the 60s or the 70s, 80s has probably already stamped their name on it on the map. And if you look at a map of dive sites in one particular area, they will be dotted with some scuba diver's name or their wife's name or whatever it is. They're going to be dotted all over that map. You can, of course, go scuba diving in between those spots. There's nothing stopping you, but they're likely going to be fairly boring, and other divers have probably been there before, seen how dull it was, and didn't bother putting their name to it. Around 7/10 of the Earth's surface is covered in water, but there's a lot of nothing to see out there, unfortunately, but sand and silt. There might be an undiscovered jewel of a dive site in the middle of nowhere that no one has ever found yet, that you might find by diving an uncharted, unnamed area, but chances are pretty slim, and the only new dive sites being created and named tend to be the man-made artificial reefs and shipwrecks. Some wrecks range from fresh, clean shipwrecks that have been purposely sunk, so they're nicely upright and they have dangers removed and access ports are opened up so that you can get in and out easily, to accidental shipwrecks where the captain just wasn't paying attention one night, bumped into something by accident, and luckily everybody got off safely, to the other end of the spectrum, which is just where people were trapped inside and they lost their lives. Either warships during conflicts or the somehow worse civilian transport ferries. A lot of divers actually choose to avoid diving certain shipwrecks because of their story. Diving in shipwrecks where in a lot of cases there are still human remains inside is a different kind of dive. In a lot of cases, shipwrecks in recreational depths, internal sections are intentionally welded shut so that they can rest in peace. But still, you shouldn't go rooting around the public areas and knocking into things, or especially taking souvenirs. Do your best to learn the history of the shipwreck that you're diving on, and if somebody did die or there are still remains inside, treat it a bit like a graveyard and don't poke around too much. A few years back, a photo of a commercial diver went viral online for worst jobs ever. It wasn't a photo of a hard hat diver on an oil rig working hard, or something with an awesome chainsaw, or welding something. It was a diver surfacing after a dive in a septic tank covered in brown. Commercial divers are often required to go diving in truly awful places to fix mechanics that can't be reached, remove blockages, and just anything that needs to be done that can't be done remotely or just with a long stick. Granted, they are wearing completely airtight suits with full head helmets, so they're covered head to toe well before and during, obviously, and after the dive, and their air supply is independent. It comes from a long hose that supplies them with fresh, clean air. The suit that they're wearing is impenetrable rubber coated suits usually, and after they get out they are hosed down completely and decontaminated left, right, up, down, center, everywhere. But when you're submerged in filth for hours at a time in literally zero visibility, literally look by touch areas, it's going to take more than a good hose down to ever feel clean after that. So there were a few bad places that I could think of that you probably wouldn't want to go for a fun dive, but if you have any bad places to dive in mind, then let me know down in the comments below, and if we get enough, we'll do a commenters follow-up video. Do you live somewhere with amazing dive sites nearby, or are they all just a little bit rubbish? Let's discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving.
Being safe and secure online is more important than ever, with more and more companies wanting to get a hold of your information and sell it to the highest bidder. This is where ExpressVPN comes to the rescue. They have over 3,000 servers in 160 locations spanning over 94 countries, and this list is growing day by day to help protect your online identity. Their VPN works on Mac, Windows, ISO, Android, and even routers. ExpressVPN even works with Netflix to help stream your media content. So say you're a massive Office fan and you live in the US, you can't access that show on Netflix. Well, using ExpressVPN, you can connect to Netflix in the UK, which has The Office, as of recording, so you can binge watch that for the millionth time. For our viewers as well, you can get an extra 3 months free when signing up to a 12-month package by clicking the link pinned in the comments. So if you want to stay safe on the internet and watch your favorite streaming shows, then you should really consider ExpressVPN. Okay, back to the video.